caressing my face, brushing my hair out of my eyes, and telling me how pretty I was and how much she loved me. And as a 5-year-old, I understood that was a really nice compliment to know that my mom thought that about me. However, the next thing she said was more important and what stuck with me for a long time. She said, Kelley, it doesn't matter how pretty you are on the outside. It matters more of how pretty you are on the inside. And you're beautiful. Even as a 5-year-old, I understood what she meant. She meant that she knew who I was and she appreciated it. And that's what I want to talk about today. It's the idea of self-concept. So self-concept is the idea of how you view yourself over a long period of time. And it's different than self-esteem, because self-esteem, I could come up and compliment your shirt, say you look nice today, and your self-esteem kind of goes up. But then in 5 minutes from now, someone might say something totally opposite, and it'll kind of go back down. So it's kind of fluctuating more often, whereas self-concept takes sometimes years to develop how you see or view yourself. So that's where I want to go off. And in today's world, there's a lot of negativity that causes us to see ourselves as not who we really are. For example, we've got the media. These magazines that pop up. And in the media, it tells you what you're doing wrong, why you don't look the right way, you need to change, you don't do this, you need to do it. And it's a social bias that distorts who we really are. If you think about it, in ancient times, like today's world tells you you need to be a size 2, you need to be super tan, you need to be wearing this outfit. And a long time ago, they used to say, like a king, he was kind of larger and he had really, really white skin because that meant he was really wealthy and didn't have to work. It's the social bias and it's distorting of how we really are. I researched and saw that the ADAA, it's the Anxiety Depression Association of America, they estimate 15 million people suffer from depression, 6.8 million people suffer from anxiety, and then 4% of female girls starting at the age of 10, they suffer from disorders such as anorexia and bulimia. Now there's a lot of factors that go into these situations. However, I believe that a big portion of it has to do with their self-concept and them having a negative one. They don't see themselves for what they truly are. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever had had the moment where you thought you were really good at something and someone said you weren't and you believed them? Or you had the desire to go for a goal but someone said you can't and you believed them? Scientists did a research project on some fleas, and fleas have the ability to jump 100 times their height. These fleas, the researchers, they put them in this jar, and they were jumping out like crazy. And so they put them back in, put a lid on them, and went home for the night. And when they came back the next morning, those fleas had been jumping all night long, and when they took the lid off, and instead of them jumping out, they just stayed right there as high as that jar lid, because all night long they were jumping and that lid was saying, you can't jump higher than me. Think about similarities in your life of how that lid is. Are there people saying things that you believe that keep you from doing the best you can? I have a friend, we'll call her Stacy for now. She kind of shared with me her life a little bit. She grew up with really high standards, and when she was younger, she didn't reach them all the time, just like all the rest of us. But instead of seeing that as like a challenge to work harder, she told herself that she was a failure. She could never succeed. Why would anyone want to be her friend? Because she wasn't good enough. And after doing that to herself for a long time, she fell into a really deep depression. And she told me she hated it when people would say, it's a choice to be happy, Amy. It's a choice. And she just never really was able to come out of that until she experienced it herself. She said, I had to learn it the hard way, but after a long time, I was sick of not having friends. So I went out and I made friends. And then she said, I wanted to have fun, so I went out and chose to have fun. I wanted a better relationship with my family, so I worked really hard, and now I have a great relationship. Her experience teaches us a lot of lessons, but especially the lesson that we have the ability to change how we see ourselves and how we see who we really are. That leads me to an idea that I just want to point out. It's an opinion, but I think it's an opinion worth thinking about. And so we all go to BYU, Idaho, as it's an LDS institution. So we all kind of have an idea of the plan of salvation. We know about our Savior Jesus Christ and the atonement. This lady named M. Catherine Thomas, she wrote an article called The Doer of Our Deeds. And she explains how all of our spirits lived with our Heavenly Father in the pre-earth life. We've all been in His presence. We know what it feels like. However, after we went through the veil, our spirits remember, but our bodies kind of forget it. But we've all made good choices, and we've had that Holy Ghost testify, like, that was good, like, you're doing great, and you feel really good about yourself. We're all human, though, and we all know the opposite. When we make a bad choice, it doesn't always make us feel good, and sometimes it really festers in us. And unless we use the atonement to kind of bring it back to good again, it'll stay in that bad spot until we fall into a depression sometimes. And so her suggestion, and it's just a suggestion, but she thinks that before we go out and look for other substances to help us, we look inside ourselves and kind of figure out what are we doing that isn't what the Lord would want us to do. And maybe it's keeping us from seeing our own self-concept as a child of God and someone of worth and value. There's a lot of other options of why depression happens, and I'm not saying that this is the only reason, but I thought it was a good idea to just kind of think about what can we do to see ourselves as children of God. So now you're probably thinking, okay, Kelley, where are you going with this? I'm just trying to point out that there are some issues in the world, and people out there, and ourselves are out there, that put negative thoughts in our brains about who we are, and it clouds our vision of our potential and our value. So my invitation to you is to go home today and look at yourself in the mirror. I have a mirror picture, yeah. Look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself some things you like about yourself. Point out some good characteristics that you enjoy. The world will tell you that's egotistical, that's narcissistic, you shouldn't do that, you're boastful. I'm telling you it's okay. Go home and pick out some things you think you look good in. Or go pick out the skills that you know that you can bring to the table and you're the best at it. Because that's going to help bring your self-concept up. And as you believe that in yourself, it'll be easier to go out in the world and tell your friends the same thing, what you like about them, how they look they look great. Be that person in their life that helps boost their own self-concept. Because even though that might not change the entire world right now, it'll change your world and the people around you. And it'll bring some joy into everyone's life. So I want to just invite you to do that. And remember that 5-year-old girl whose mom told her that she was beautiful on the inside and out, and that girl believed it. Thank you.